Well, when you're a journalist, you have a responsibility at least to tell the truth and to be fair, even though that's kind of skewed these days. But yesterday, we told you about Katie Couric censoring what late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said about people taking a knee during the national anthem, mainly football players. It's not okay, but we wanted to talk about it more this morning. So we brought in our colleague, Charles Blow, host of BNC's Prime with Charles Blow. Charles, of course, is a best-selling author and has been a New York Times opinion columnist since 2008, and there's no one better for us to have this conversation with right now. Charles, thank you so much for waking up with us this morning. We know that you were up late last night doing your own show, but yeah, you're good. I know he smells good too, Sharon. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. We're gonna give you your accolades and your flowers and how well you smell and how good you're looking as far as your dressing. But let's talk about this fake news from the right. For years, we've been hearing about it. Donald Trump coined that term. But Couric's admission, is this a fire starter, or has this now just become part of our business?
I don't think it's part of our business. This is a true question of journalism ethics. You cannot say, that you like and respect the subject of an interview, an on-the-record interview, a sitting member of the Supreme Court, a person who at the time was authoring some of the most fiery dissents that the court was issuing, and say that you made choices to remove portions of an interview where she said things that were clearly newsworthy because you were trying to be protective of that particular justice. The justices are no different than the president or vice president or the majority or minority leaders of the House or Senate. Everything that they say is news, and you have to treat it that way. And what you have to do is to apply the standard of what if it was someone who you didn't like and respect? What if it were, I don't know what Katie Couric's politics are, but what if, in my case, what if it was Trump? Or what if it was Clarence Thomas who said the exact same thing? Would I apply the same standard? Would I let her office, appeal to me to say, oh, she misunderstood the question? What do you mean she misunderstood the question? Well, then we have to play what she said, and then we can let her respond to that. But you can't take that out.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, Charles Blow. And can't you have your cake and eat it too? Can't you believe in an interview subject but still hold them accountable? Really, that's what you're saying. And isn't this dangerous, what Katie Couric did? And I mean that. In an age where there's still that rush to get the story, to get the exclusive interview, the internet, it's a landmine, as we know, COVID, credibility, on and on and on. Shouldn't we worry? Viewers, readers, they'll stop believing what's being reported here, and they'll say, aha, we knew you censored it, and here we are.
Hey, that is truly the danger, and I think that is also part of the danger in what we call access journalism. There are a lot of people who want access to the important subject of the day, and they make compromises so that they can maintain that access. Landing an interview with a sitting Supreme Court justice is a big deal. And so, yes, there are some people who want to make sure that they don't do things that would make that person upset. They want to make sure that they might be able to come back and interview them again. If their office calls and says, she misunderstood the question, please take that out, and you don't, it is very unlikely that you will be able to interview that person again. But we have to get to a point where we are okay with saying, okay, this is my one and only time interviewing you because you said this and I'm going to print it or I'm going to air it.
And there's nothing wrong with just following up with a question just to make sure that they clarify their remarks, just to make sure that they are on top of their game as well. And I can only imagine if somebody were interviewing the former president and all the stuff that came out of his mouth that wasn't edited and he said it on the record, how much was left off the record because of their relationships back in the day. Before we get into President Biden and his agenda, I want to ask you, because this is also something that made news during the whole situation with John Gruden. Adam Schefter was part of it. Adam Schefter is a reporter for the ESPN, good insider. He was part of the email chain where they saw him send his story to Bruce Allen, who was then the president of the Redskins at the time. He says it was for fact checking. Is that something that is common? Have you done that as a New York Times columnist to just make sure that all your facts are in a row, giving somebody that story, not saying that you were going to change the story, but just showing them the story in advance to make sure that the facts are correct?
Absolutely not. I've never done that. I have sent a subject the quote that I'm quoting of them, and to make sure that it is correct. If it were, a quote that I got in passing or something, because sometimes you don't have the ability to record when you're getting quotes. I mean, when you're out in the field, sometimes you're just running. Maybe you had your pad, maybe you have your tape recorder, maybe you don't. I've had situations where I just didn't have it. And as a way of kind of backfilling, if I didn't have if I had only had a notepad, didn't have my tape recorder, I have sometimes run a quote by a person saying, making sure that this is as I remember it, but not the entire column. It's no one's business what I'm writing. It is between me and my editor and the publication that I'm working for. And forget what they say about fact checking. If you don't have your own fact checkers, that's insane. Why would a person? Why would any subject of an interview be responsible or be called in to fact check an entire piece? No, what they're doing is you're giving them the piece to let them know exactly the entire parameters of what you are writing, and that is clearly what that is.
Yeah, it is. I want to pivot if we can, because you're such an important voice, and while we have you, the president, the Biden administration, so many promises, as you know, Charles, made to black and brown Americans who put him there, who got him inside the Oval Office. And we want to know, because Mike and I talk about it all the time on this show, you talk about it on yours, where are we headed? Where are we headed? Because we hear a lot about infrastructure and everything else, but what about black people?
Well, there's some portion of what was promised that appear to be dead. Police reform appears to be dead. I don't see where that's going. I mean, the lead negotiators, all three of them, black, have basically said the negotiations collapsed and they're done. So that's dead. The voting rights legislation, there is a new bill that Schumer says they're going to vote on Wednesday, or they're going to see if they can vote on Wednesday. They're going to call for a vote, and whether or not they get, if they can break the filibuster, they'll get around to a vote. It is not clear in any way that they're going to get there. In fact, it is very likely that they won't get there. And then you'll be back to where we were before, which is, will Joe Manchin vote to reform or kill the filibuster? He has given no indication that he wants to do that. So we will see. I mean, his name, he is one of the authors of the new bill, so whatever. But the question is whether or not, what is the Biden administration's strategy? Are they working behind the scenes? And that's what they keep telling us anyway. And is that strategy going to work? I don't know yet. All I know is that publicly they're not leaning in on the issues that black people want them to lean in on. And that's problematic, particularly if they fall apart.
Yeah, and ultimately it's going to be on Joe Biden and the administration. Yeah, absolutely. Despite Manchin and Sinema kind of fighting against their own party. But I just got a quick question. What has this administration done for black people so far? I mean, look, the COVID relief package obviously is something they got passed, a bipartisan situation, because it helped and it affected everyone. But in particular, what has this administration done for black people? We're talking about police reform, we're talking about voting rights. What has been done for us after so many promises?
Well, I mean, the Biden administration will make the same argument that the Obama administration made, which is you have to look at the effect of the legislations, that the things that they pass disproportionately affect black people. And so you already talked about COVID relief. That was the biggest part of what has been done so far. The other big piece of legislation, they are kind of walking those through right now. If they get the infrastructure bill passed, it will. They're not wrong. It will disproportionately help black people more. If you're talking about fixing lead piping in this country, that's huge. No doubt about it. And that disproportionately help black people. If you're talking about poverty reduction efforts, you're talking about universal child care, things like that disproportionately help black people. There's no doubt about it. But it's not there yet. And the things specifically promised to black people are also problematic and at this point kind of flailing about. So we're just not sure what the record is so far. But we got Juneteenth. I guess we get to go barbecue on Juneteenth. It's not gonna work. I guess that's it.
That's a T-shirt. We got Juneteenth. Charles Blow, let me tell you something. They got a messaging problem. They need you, but we're keeping you. And by the way, somebody calls you to get up this early again. You have my permission. You show up in your bathrobe. Though that'll probably be tailored too, if I know you. Probably custom made, won't it, Mike?
I think
okay.
somebody might prefer that.
He looks like
to be honest with you, Charles.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. He's a distinguished-looking man. I don't mind saying that about my colleague. I just love it. Dressed to the nines this early. Charles Blow, we love you.
He's so
we
finely
appreciate your
groomed
insight.
early in the morning. Look
I
at you.
don't know
like
what
your
he's
beard
doing
is just
with
like
that facial hair. But he's going somewhere getting it conditioned, and then they put that steamy hot towel on. It's very expensive to get that treatment, I believe, isn't it, Charles? Don't you? They come to your home, don't they?
What are you talking about, Sharon? There's no treatment. I'm not fancy
groomers.
in any way.
Well, see that? A class
Sharon wish you was smell-o-vision right now. She would like scratch the screen and smell like he smells so good.
It's so rich. No, it's expensive stuff. Okay, it ain't no Gina Tay and this other Old Spice people.
It's Creed.
Thank you, Charles. We appreciate you.
Creed.
You can catch
Definitely
him
Creed.
every night in
Look at
his
that picture right there.
smoking
Look at
jacket. Look
And
at
he
this
got the
right
smiles.
there.
Look at that. That's a
My God,
smile.
no
Look at
retouch.
that. Look at that.
No retouch. 10 p.m. Eastern, Prime with Charles Blow, featuring
Sharon said
acclaimed
he's so
newsmakers, putting
almondy.
history into perspective. He certainly is. I mean, that's some rich Prada, Gucci. I don't know what the cologne was. I can't afford it.
Creed.
We're right back. Yeah.